How we doing, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is United versus Everybody. I am your host, Sean, and I'm glad to be back just doing another video. I know you guys probably so sick and tired of me right now, and but quite frankly, I just love doing this, and I can't be more vocal and more appreciative towards you guys for just being here, for engaging, for just giving me the opportunity to chat with other United fans from all over the world. I'm super excited to be able to do that. Like, that's the world we live in now. We can do this now. So thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you guys for just engaging and growing the community. I do appreciate it. Let's get stuck in tonight. Patrick, already here. How you doing, my guy? Good to see you again. First and foremost, just as a therapist, have Arsenal fans recovered yet from their trauma, or is the safety watch still in effect after Martin Odegaard picked up his injury? That's not me celebrating an injury. That's just me checking on Arsenal fans, because some of those guys are ready to jump off of a freaking window ledge after what happened yesterday. Jeez. Like one player for a couple games and they're already freaking out. Yeah, come back and talk to us a little bit when you're missing literally your entire back line for the whole year. Like Odegaard missing for a few games is the reason they're not going to win anything for another year. Fucking hell, give me a break. Had to get that out of the way because, like I said, as a therapist, I just want to check in on those Arsenal fans out there. Quick update as well. I did end up booking tickets for my trip over to Manchester this season. As you know, I've been going the last few years, like I've mentioned. Did get confirmation from my guy Justin, who was here for the transfer window rating video and the season prediction video. He and I will be going back in January. We'll be there for the Southampton match and the Brighton match, and then I think we're going to try to head over to Lee Sports Village to check the academy when they play Aston Villa as well. So always try to go and represent, always try to go with support all the teams if I can. If we weren't leaving Sunday, I'd probably try to head over and catch the women's team as well, but we are leaving Sunday, so it is what it is. But if any of you are local to Manchester, or if you guys are planning to be there around that time and you do want to meet up, grab a drink and just chat about United, hit me up. We will try to make that happen. But moving on to the video. So a little bit of a unique video today, as always. Just the international break's a little quieter. Unless you want to pay attention to each and every little negative bullshit anti-United media article or anything that comes out, any headline. We spoke about that last night. Kind of was on one last night. Apologies if you guys don't like foul language, but I was not having it yesterday after that bullcrap. But today, as the international break wraps up, I wanted to do a video just talking about some transfer targets. I know that transfer targets is always kind of hit or miss with some people. Some people might think it's too early, but it doesn't sound like it's too early for like Ineos, Ashworth, Sir Jim, Brailsford, all those guys to be thinking about it. It's never too early for us to be thinking about it. Danny's popping up in the chat. Good to see you, my guy. But I wanted to look today at left backs that I want Manchester United to look at. We've spoken a little bit about Luke Shaw. I did a video on Luke Shaw. This is a make or break season for me for Luke Shaw. I shared a little bit of my left back stuff when it comes to potential January signings, and that one is more in the context of what's possible in January and everything. But and then obviously last season I did a similar video when I went through each priority position, and left back was one of them. Obviously we didn't think that as a club that left back was priority. Now we're kind of shooting ourselves, right? But I wanted to do an updated one because a lot of things have changed, right? And so last season was more focused on younger left backs that I thought could come in and maybe start to be an understudy and rotate and then eventually take over. Today, though, because that was back when I was very young and naive and still had hopes for Shaw. But reality hits you pretty fast, right? Life comes at you pretty fast. Today, we're right back in that same situation we were last summer with Luke Shaw, and I'm over it. I'm done. It's nothing personal. He's not a bad guy. I'm not going to go in on anything personal, but it's just the facts. We can't count on Luke Shaw to stay fit. It just is what it is. We got reports recently that United's team had sat down to look over future windows. Left back was a topic of discussion. We're linked with Aït-Nouri, Milos Kerkez. And then recently we got reports that we were rekindling our interest in Patrick Dorgu, Lecce's young left back. He's only like 19, I think. And so And that report, I think, was coming from Graham Bailey. So it's a little concerning at first because these young players kind of makes me think that we're looking at, again, a young successor to Shaw rather than a replacement, which to me is a little odd. We already have Harry Amos coming through. I don't really feel like we need a young teenager. I'm not going to say no, but if it's to the detriment of strengthening the squad, of keeping the first team strong and having good depth there, then I would say no to that because of Amos. And again, I would think it would be foolish not to look at a first team ready left back because, again, Shaw, kind of like what we're starting to see maybe with Mason Mount, he can't be counted upon. He's only going to leave us frustrated and shorthanded if we bank on him as our starting left back, as we've seen. The guy's been fit 50% of the games for United. And so, again, it's because of this that I've been extremely vocal with my frustration and my strong belief that we should have made left back a priority this summer. We really should have. It was extremely short-sighted, almost negligent, in my opinion, to not target left backs. I'm not saying it was the top priority, but it should have been up there. It didn't happen. We pushed Dallo out to the left back slot, and Nusayr Mazraoui is taking over the right back. And to be fair, they're both doing just fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is, once again, if one of those guys gets injured, because we have a busy fixture list coming up that we're going to talk about later on this week when we do our Southampton preview. If Dallo or Mazraoui get injured, or you need to rotate because we've got 5 matches in just over 2 weeks coming up, like who is left? We don't have any options. So I want us to have more quality and depth. I want us to be able to improve on Luke Shaw, I think. And it's for this reason, it's time to replace Luke Shaw with a first team quality left back who really, in my opinion, needs to move the needle for us, not just in maybe, being more fit than Luke Shaw long-term, being first team ready as a kind of a bare minimum, but someone who really ups the level of our first team, of our starting 11, someone who is better than what we've had. And I don't think that you have to look too far. And I think that is going to be necessary as we try to play out from the back, as we try to get our fullbacks a little bit more involved. We're going to want someone who just offers a little bit more than what we've seen. Shaw's been here a decade. He's only been fit half the time. Like, we need to do better. It wouldn't be hard to improve, at least on the fitness. If we want to get back to challenging, if we want to stay in and around the top 4, top 3, even if we want to maintain silverware every season, we're going to have to look at where we are in levels of our personnel and upgrade. And I think that it's time to do it. You're looking at, this is guys like Danny Carvajal, Kyle Walker. This level of fullback is what we need to be starting to look at right now. We're at that point now where in the next year or so we can start to do this and be a little bit more ruthless. So the left backs I want us to look at today. Hey, Raja, how you doing, bud? Are first team quality. They're experienced, and there's a chance they could be tempted to make a move for one reason or another this summer. Danny mentions Nkapie. I thought Nkapie he's a center back, but they play in like a back 3, right? If I'm not mistaken, kind of like Mario Hermoso. Let me know. I do like Nkapie. He's a center back, isn't he? So I have 5 I want to look at today. I will admit first, right off the bat, that 2 of them are a bit of a stretch, though, mostly probably due to the cost. But I do think they would be world-class additions to the squad. Probably best in class when it comes to left backs right now in world football. And so I'll save those ones for the end because they're kind of far-fetched pipe dreams, but they're worth mentioning anyway because they would be great. I didn't include Leif Davis or Rayan Aït-Nouri in this video, just because I already talked about them in the January transfers video. Because if you remember, Leif Davis, I think, could be realistic in January, depending on where Ipswich are and depending on our fitness. And it's the same with Wolves and Aït-Nouri. So let me know. But I can't wait to hear your thoughts on my picks, though. So I'm eager to hear what you guys think. So I want to get stuck in and take a look at the first left back on my list. Now, these aren't in any particular order, necessarily. So don't pay attention too much to that. So let's get started real quick. Sorry, I just had to adjust my screen because I hit the wrong button. I told you guys, technology and me are not friends. So first on my list, I'm looking at Fran Garcia. Plays for Real Madrid, and I watched him a lot last season, and I've watched him a little bit more in preseason. Obviously, I don't watch a ton of Real Madrid football throughout the season, but I really like what I see from Fran Garcia. I think it's almost a crime that he's been kind of rotation backup option here and there for Ferland Mendy. I think that Fran Garcia is good enough to start for top clubs. I've mentioned him a couple times, but I've never really done a deep dive on Real Madrid's young left back here. So currently, again, he and Ferland Mendy are kind of rotating. And even for a second there, heading into this summer, it kind of looked like Ferland Mendy was going to be moved on just from fitness and his age. But Carlo really likes him. He opted to keep him. So the minutes are going to be split between the two of them, most likely. Mendy was injured for 22-23 season, and Garcia started pretty much every league match for Real Madrid that season. During that time, he had 2 goals, 3 assists, and finished just outside the top 10 for tackles per 90. So a very good season when Mendy was injured for Gran Garcia. Last season, though, he and Mendy split their minutes and he just started 15 matches. He only played in 26 matches. He was in the team of the week twice, though, and I think maybe that challenge to compete with Mendy for that spot sparked something in him because his numbers improved. He had a goal, 5 assists, created 5 big chances, and it's a big step up from the previous season. And remember, he just turned 25 this summer. He's a very, very, very good age, not only for first team, but I'd argue he's at an age now in his career where, yeah, he's at Madrid, and for a lot of players, that's where they want to go, especially these young Spanish players. But at the same time, these players also want to play. If he it's kind of like McTominay. McTominay is at an age where he backed himself to start. He wasn't going to get minutes, so he sought those minutes elsewhere, and now he's at Napoli. I think that this is why Fran Garcia is on my list. I think that if we're moving on from Shaw, if we're cutting the cord with Shaw, and we can tell Garcia, like, you're going to get minutes, like, you're going to be our guy, I think that could be enough to do that. I don't think it's enough anymore just to say, like, you're at Real Madrid. I think players want to play. It's best for them, for their national teams as well, as we're seeing more and more international games. And I think that's going to be a big selling point and this is assuming that he's an option. I'm not saying he is, but this is just how I would sell it if I were in charge, right? Seeing as how we're talking about replacing Shaw, I want to look at how Fran Garcia's numbers compare to Shaw's over the last few years, as well as some of the other fullbacks in and around the top 5 leagues in Europe. So let me bring this up for you guys because I want you guys to see what I'm looking at too here. So Raja says, no way Fran will leave. I think we could maybe tempt him. I'm just, again, it's who I would want us to look at. I'm not saying this is who we're linked with or anything, but I think that these are options here. Raja says, why is there a decolored Man City scarf? Are you talking about this one, Raja? This is actually Detroit City FC. It's a team that plays in the USL here, probably about 25 minutes from me. They started way down in Nisa, and then they slowly have bought their way into the USL, which is one tier below the MLS over here. But that's Detroit City FC. They play out of Detroit. So that's what that's for. So here we go. So this is coming from FBref. Anytime I talk about percentile ranks and anything, it's coming from FBref. This and the plotted graph on the right-hand side is from Opta. So this is just from the last year. Now, Shaw's stats from the last year are going to be a little skewed because he didn't play very much, but he never does. So his stats are always going to be skewed. But if you look at Fran Garcia's percentile ranks, the guy's in the top percent for assists. He's got a really good pass completion, top 7% there. His progressive carries and his progressive passes received are something to look at, because progressive passes received means he's high up the pitch when he receives the ball. Progressive carries means he's carrying the ball at least 10 yards closer to the opposition area. So he's getting the ball and he's carrying it. He's got good passing. He's getting the ball. As you see, he's in the top 25% for progressive passes. So he's actually moving the ball forward as well through passing as well, which I really, really like to see. Touches in the attacking penalty areas in the 56th percentile. Now that looks low compared to like the dark green numbers, but all 56th percentile means is you're average. You're slightly above average. So it's not bad. And then his interceptions are very good as well. So if you look at his tackles are not great. You don't want to be making a ton of tackles. Like Maldini said, if you have to make a tackle, you've already failed. I'm not saying it's bad to make a tackle, but you don't want to have to rely on that. Interceptions to me are almost better because it means you're reading the game, you're positioning yourself, you're kind of anticipating where the danger is coming from, and you're cutting out the options and you're cutting out the pass and you're making that interception. And he is in the 82nd percentile for that. Now compared to Shaw, so if you look over here, so the only thing Shaw is going to have on him really is some of the bigger defensive numbers, your blocks, your aerial duels, your clearances. Um, when it comes to, again, moving the ball, carrying the ball, moving it closer to the opposition area, really creating and getting involved in the buildup in the attack, Fran Garcia is way ahead of Shaw. So if we look at his numbers from the 2022-2023 season, though, it's more of the same. We're seeing back then, so that was back when he played the whole season, if you remember, because Mendy was injured. His defensive numbers were a little better. And again, those progressive carries, top 2%, still way above average for all these metrics in terms of passing. And then we have a little bit more of an accurate depiction for Shaw here because that was a season he was fit. But Garcia is still ahead of him in terms of just carrying the ball himself. Those progressive carries, those take-ons, way ahead of Shaw in that regard. And so let me cancel that. Here we go. So these are the numbers that I look at a lot with any player really. Danny B says Shaw was arguably one good year in 1920. I think the rest wasn't consistent or just average. He injured most of his career. I've finished for Shaw since after. Yeah, and that's kind of where I am. 2022, 2023 was actually a very good year for Shaw. I think didn't he win an award for us, or maybe that was 1920? I don't remember off the top of my head. And it's sad because we look at 2022, 2023 as a good year for Shaw, but I feel like I'm only looking at that as a good year for Shaw because he wasn't injured. He was just fit for most of it. But what you're going to see here is that Shaw compared to Garcia is a little bit more defensive minded. Remember some of the stats from 2022-23, he did play center back a lot for that season as well, a handful of times. So he was getting involved more. We don't see Shaw get forward as much as he used to. I think that leg break really kind of screwed with his head. He's hesitant to just bomb forward. And it's so frustrating because like Anthony, when he does bomb forward, he creates something for us. It just doesn't happen enough for me. And it's getting to a point now. He's been here 10 years. He's 27 now. He's never fit. It's time to move on, cut our losses. I think he could go to like this new look West Ham under Lopetegui. He could go someplace like that and do very well. And I think that there's an opportunity there, but we will see. Fran Garcia can create really good opportunities, and that's what I love. He moves the ball. His progressive carries have been in the top 4% as well the last 2 seasons. His pass completion is solid, top 7% the last season. Defensively, Fran Garcia is averaging, again, around 1.25 interceptions per 90, which is solid numbers. Now, like somebody said, Raja says get Grimaldo. Yeah, good luck with that. Maybe, but Grimaldo is getting up into that age now. I think he's 27, 28 now, where he's getting up there. So we'll see. I think it's going to depend on how well Leverkusen are doing and maybe what happens with Xabi Alonso. But Raja says no way Fran would leave. So here's the thing. Like I said, it's going to be difficult to tempt players to leave Real Madrid. I get that. But it can be done if you give them a decent price. Or as we've seen, if the player's not really in Madrid's plan, they're willing to offload him, which we've done with a couple players now. Arguably, some of the players were at the twilight of their career, but Fran Garcia is at the prime of his career. But if you offer him more minutes as well, if you say you're going to get minutes here, you're not getting minutes there, then it gets interesting. The player can force a move, do whatever he wants. Then it's really up to him and up to Madrid on what they want to do. And like Danny B is saying, yeah, if Mendy seems to be Ancelotti's preferred option, and Madrid were also heavily linked with Alphonso Davies, like Danny B says, and they also do have a cheap buyback clause for Miguel Gutierrez. Madrid have a lot of options. It sounds like they're wanting to move on as well, because Florentino Perez always wants that new shiny toy. I would have included Alphonso Davies in my list, but the guy's been injured a lot, and he really didn't look good in Champions League last season. He doesn't look like he wants to be at Bayern Munich anymore. So Bournemouth were also interested in Fran Garcia this past summer. Iriola is his former coach. He played under him at Rayo Vallecano for a few years until Real Madrid rebought him. Villarreal and Borussia Dortmund were also interested as well, but they were all rejected by Madrid. It seems like Madrid wanted some cover this year. It'll be interesting to see what Fran Garcia's future looks like. because it does look like Madrid are looking at maybe grabbing Alphonso Davies for free. I think with a lot of clubs interested in Fran Garcia, though, it could turn into a little bit of a bidding war unless we move quickly. If it's something that if he is someone we are interested in, I'm not saying we are, but I think I would really like us to take a look at Garcia. I think that he's a left back I really like. I think he would improve us. I think he would offer more than Luke Shaw. And bonus, he's only had like 2 injuries in his career, and the last one was like 5 years ago almost. So I think that is a big priority for me moving forward from Shaw because of the injury. So Fran Garcia's injury record is near impeccable. So I like what I see there. Let me know what you guys think, because I'm going to move on to the next left back on my list. And again, these are in no particular order. I'm just going through my list here. So next on my list is David Raum, plays for RB Leipzig, German. And if you guys have not watched him the last year, you're missing out, because he's very, very good. He's 26 years old. Again, very few injuries in his career, which again is a priority for me if you haven't noticed. He's made a name for himself in the Bundesliga for being a very, very, very rapid fullback. He's got a nasty habit of creating really good chances for his team, specifically with really good crossing. Danny says he haven't seen much of him lately. Raum is very, very good. He was 4th in the Bundesliga last season for accurate crosses. He had 80 accurate crosses. And you know that when we've got strikers, we're not great with crosses. We've seen some go in. Dalo's got like 1 out of 10 that finds its mark. Rashford had a couple of really good ones against Liverpool. Bruno's balls don't tend to be crosses unless they're free kicks. Bruno kind of tends to play these very narrow vertical balls. We just don't have a lot of players who put in really decent crosses. And I think that I'd like to see more of that now that we've got a couple of different striking options coming in. Ronaldo threw a fit in one match. You remember when Rashford and Mason Greenwood were just lobbing these crosses over his head over and over again. There was that one match where he just looked at the manager and was like the balls are going everywhere. You can't do anything. We need some better crossing in the box is what I'm trying to say. When you're 4th in the Bundesliga for accurate crosses in a season with 80, I like that. It helped him create 15 big chances and rack up 8 assists last season on top of his 2 goals. He had 10 goal involvements, created 15 big chances. And he was in the team of the week 4 times last season. His big chances were actually 10th in the league too as well. So I really like what I see from David Raum. Yeah, Danny says he played in the Euros last time I watched him. And think, yeah, he was kind of rotated in and out with Mittelstadt. I think Mittelstadt was kind of like, that was like his first international kind of thing. Mittelstadt's like 28 now, I think. But Raum was a beast even before he joined Leipzig, though, from Hoffenheim. In the 21-22 season, when he was still at Hoffenheim, he was already starting to turn heads. He had 3 goals, 11 assists, created 19 big chances that season, and he got to and what that did was that earned Raum a spot in the 21-22 Bundesliga team of the season. Very, very good season from him. He had the 6th most assists in the league that season, 2nd most big chances created. He was 5th for key passes for 90. And you could argue that he was already one of those players that was too good for academy football way back when he was scoring 10 and providing 12 assists for the U19s for a small German club called Greuther Fürth. That was back in 2015. So he's been like really good since he was a teenager. And even then, that way he started off as a striker, and then he played as a wide midfielder, and then he moved back into, which kind of, I think, factors in to his play style, his very rapid, very direct play style, but also knowing where attackers want the ball from playing as an attacker when he was young. That's why it's helped him create so many chances and get so many assists. He's kind of played on both sides of that position. He's very fast, David Raum. He's very powerful. He has a wand of a left foot. He's very attack-minded fullback. Looks to get forward often. He wants to pick out those attackers with a cross or a grounded ball. He's got that history as a midfielder, though. So he's very comfortable on the ball as well. He's got an eye for knowing when to pass, when to carry it himself. He's very, very good in the build-up. Don't take my word for it. Go check out more of David Raum this season. Check out some highlights maybe from the Euros if you want to see how he does on an international level. I don't like to look at international level too often because it's very different. Coaching style is different. Your teammates are different. Everything's different. So it's always a little iffy to judge someone in international football, but we see it happen all the time. Why don't we look at some of his numbers for his percentile ranks a little bit, because we are cruising right along. Don't forget, hit that like button if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, guys, we are on the road to 2K subscribers. We're at just over 1,400, I think now. It might have been more since the last time I checked, but you guys let me know. All right, so these are Rahm's percentiles ranks. Shot creating actions, assists, expected assists, like literally top 7% was the lowest one for that. It's insane. He gets high up the pitch, and this was last season. So he's getting high up the pitch. He's making a lot of good blocks, a lot of good clearances. Compared to Shaw last season, very, very good. Looking at the season before that, again, we're seeing more passes, more touches in the opposition area, more carries, more progressive passes received. He's getting high at the pitch. He's carrying the ball. He's creating chances for his team. He's creating opportunities. Tackles are good. Blocks are good. Like 64 percentile for tackles is not bad. That's well above average. Just because it's not like a 99th percentile doesn't mean it's bad. It takes a lot to get up to those high percentile ranks. Raja says Madrid is the biggest team in the world. That's not very debatable. I mean, I think a lot of fans, United fans, might debate you on that one, my guy. They might be the best team in the world, but I don't know if they're the biggest, quite honestly. But it's debatable. It's up there. Raja says if Mendy is available next year, let's get him. Madrid are my second favorite team. If Mendy, he's gonna be like 30 next season, I think, Ferland Mendy. So we look at how Rahm compares to Shaw for Shaw's last like good full season, because I'm trying to keep it balanced here. I want to go by Shaw's good seasons when he's not so much injured, so these stats aren't skewed. But again, it's a lot of progressive carries, a lot of progressive passes received, the assists, the shot creating actions. Again, where Shaw tends to outdo some of these other fullbacks is he is more defensive minded. He's just getting more involved in blocks, he's getting more involved in the headers. That's just because that's just the way we played for so long. Sorry, it always takes me a couple seconds to switch back these slides. So the one thing you always have to worry about when it comes to top German talent is they tend to want to stay in Germany. It's kind of like Italian players. Dortmund players want to go to Bayern Munich. Leipzig players and players from other German clubs want to go to Dortmund or Bayern. Ultimately, the goal for a lot of these German players is Bayern Munich. And typically, those two clubs tend to poach a lot of the best German talent in the Bundesliga. Rahm is not going to be any exception. Dortmund were very, very interested in him before he joined RB Leipzig, but they weren't able to raise the money. They still had Schultz and somebody else, I think they just picked up as well, that they were trying to get rid of. West Ham were also interested back then as well. It was reported just as recently as February that Barcelona and some unnamed Premier League clubs were interested in him as well. That didn't happen. I do think that Raum is ready for the next step, in my opinion. And I do think that Manchester United could be the perfect option for him. I think he offers a little bit more than Shaw. And I think his defensive output is not bad at all, really, compared to other fullbacks in the top 5 leagues. His speed, his strength allow him to make quick recoveries. And I think that he's strong enough to muscle the opposition off the ball and kind of impose himself on the opposition. High intensity is the name of the game for David Raum, and I think that the Premier League in that regard would suit him very well. It's a very intense league. It's a very unforgiving league, and you really got to hit the ground running. I think he could do it. So agree, disagree. Let me know your thoughts on David Raum. What do you guys got saying? Rajat really, really wants Mendy. Rajat wants to know, will I risk it if he got Grimaldo? He's not great defensively. Doesn't Grimaldo pretty much play as a wingback in Leverkusen? I thought they played like a 3-5 situation. I don't remember. I didn't watch a ton of Leverkusen last season. Let me see what you got going on here. I'm gonna look up Grimaldo because this is how we roll. So Grimaldo is 28. He will be 29 in not even like 2 weeks. So he's already getting up there. That's kind of old to come into the Premier League and play a very high physically demanded position like fullback, in my opinion. Let me see. Yeah, so Grimaldo does play wingback a lot. It's like a 3-4-2-1, it looks like, is what they're going with. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think for Grimaldo, and I looked at Grimaldo briefly, Rajat, I think that Grimaldo for me was just the age. Because if you bring Grimaldo in, it's literally a stopgap for like a season or two, and then you're kind of right back to where you were checking, is Malacia able to be counted upon? Is Harry Amos ready? 18, Amos would be 18, 19 at that point. That's still pretty young if he's not quite there yet. So that's the only reason I didn't really include Grimaldo, is just like kind of looking long term and not trying to think like the next year or two. Raja says, but 28, 29 to 30 years his age is prime years. At least most players peak over 28, 30. Yeah, I think in the modern game and with modern science and nutrition and all that, I think that it is a lot different. But again, this is just opinion, and that's why I want you guys to share yours. Grimaldo is a really good fullback. There's no denying it. But I think for me, I think that it's a risk. It is a risk in my opinion. But let me know. Let me know what you think. I mean, he's not bad at all. So let's move on to the next target on my list here, because we are cruising right along. So next on my list, a little bit of a cheat, but that's okay. It's fine. Miguel Gutierrez. Danny mentioned him earlier. We've been linked with him a couple times in the last half a season or so. I've mentioned him once or twice already. He's very good fullback. Plays for Girona. He's T3. It's always good to take a little closer look at why we're interested in a player, which is why he's also on my list. It was not a coincidence. He's a very good fullback. 23-year-old Spanish left back, plays for Girona. That's where Donny van de Beek is now. Came through Real Madrid's academy, signed for Girona a couple years ago, back in 2022. Very, very fast, very, very attack-minded, get forward a lot. Very good at contributing to the attack. Very good at inverting, taking up positions in the middle of the pitch when it's appropriate as well. And we've seen from tenhag systems, sometimes the fullbacks will do that. Either in the build-up, they'll move centrally to create kind of an option for the winger. They'll draw the opposition attacker towards them and leave like Rashford wide open. We've seen that a lot. We've seen Dalot bomb forward a couple times a match to get on the end of something. We've seen Dalot get involved in the build-up. We've seen defenders stay high up the pitch and sometimes bomb forward well. I think that this would be no different. It isn't just enough to overlap as a fullback these days. Knowing how and when to underlap, move centrally, get involved in midfield, to take up spaces left by your teammates. It's a must in a tactical system. It's just a must. Danny says he's the man we need if we don't take a risk on Dorgu. I really like Gutierrez a lot. He's fast. He's really good on the ball. He can run all day long if you ask him to. He's got a brilliant eye for chance creation. It's not difficult to see why United and a ton of other clubs are interested in him. So let's look at some of his numbers. So he had 2 goals, 7 assists, and a whopping 21 big chances created last season, which was tied for first in La Liga. I'd tell you, like, I wish that like it's a crime that we haven't had like a consistent striker system in United side, because Bruno would probably have a Ballon d'Or by now with all the chances he creates. And it's the same with Gutierrez, 21 big chances. It reminds me of Leif Davis with all the assists he had. He's in the top 10% for expected assists per 90. Solid dribbling, solid take on stats, excellent pass completion. He's in the top 10% for pass completion. Really good progressive passing numbers. Imagine Højlund's goal output with those kind of chance creation, with these kind of assists, with these kind of crossing numbers. But let's see how Gutierrez stacks up against some of the other fullbacks in the top 5 leagues in Europe, shall we? You guys know what's coming. Boom! All right. So this was last season for Gutierrez. Danny B, is his release clause still there? We're getting there. We're getting there. So assist, top 11%. Shot creating action, still really good in the 70 percentile. That's literally like way above average. Passes attempted, above average. Pass completion, top 5%. Progressive passes, progressive carries, successful take-ons, all very, very good. Again, it's those touches in the attacking penalty area and progressive passes received that puts him up there. He's getting high up the pitch and he's receiving the ball high up the pitch. It's almost in a winger position sometimes. He's like situated high up the pitch. I like to see his defensive output improve a little bit more personally. I think he's still very young. I think as his reading of the game, as he gets more experience, he'll kind of learn those kind of things. We'll see those interceptions go up and those blocks and things go up. I really like fullbacks when they're able to prevent crosses from coming in. I don't like depending so much on the aerials and the clearances as much as I like to see blocks, so that the crosses aren't even making it into the box. I don't even care if we get a corner. I'd rather just not let the cross get in the box personally. But compared to Shaw last season, I mean, it's night and day. You're going to see, again, Shaw, you're going to see Shaw's defensive numbers, those aerials, those clearances, those blocks, a lot higher than most fullbacks, because that's just the way that he was played. But the assists, the chance creation, the carries, all those way, way higher. And we look at 2 seasons ago when Shaw was more fit, it's still more of the same. Gutierrez, his passes, his carries, his take-ons, his progressive passes received, all just up there. Again, Shaw higher on the defensive side, and that's just the way he plays. Again, you're looking at all these progressive numbers, the passes, the carries, the touches in the area, take-ons. Gutierrez is like way, 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 way above average when it comes to all of these things. And so that's what I like to see from my fullbacks. I like to see them getting involved in the attack a little bit more than what we've seen from Shaw recently. I'd like to see, and if Shaw would do it more, because again, we've seen him when he does it, is creating something, and he could stay fit, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But too many things are not lining up for Shaw. He's failing to tick those boxes these days. Danny says, not a fan of Frimpong in a back four, though. Raja, let us next year get. Dude, what is going on with Frimpong that he had a release clause and nobody went for him? I looked at Frimpong as, if you remember from those videos, I looked at Frimpong as my cheaper option for right wing almost, just because if you look at Frimpong's like attacking numbers, he's so high up the pitch all the time. Like, I almost don't want him as a right back. I think you're losing out a little bit by forcing him to have to keep tracking back all the time, especially in the back four, like Danny says. But if you play Frimpong as a right winger in like a 4-2-3-1 system or something, like it's gonna blow your mind. And so if we didn't get Olise, if we sold Anthony or whatever, I would have been like, go get Frimpong for like whatever his release clause was like 35 or something. That's a no-brainer for me, and I've said it many, many times. Raja says Gutierrez off Madrid. If Erik tenhag will line up in the back four, then play back five, or to be honest, back three. I don't think there's anything wrong with sometimes setting up in a back three, depending on the situation, depending on fitness. Ollie did it a couple times in Champions League, and it went pretty well. Nothing wrong with it. Raja agrees with me. Says exactly. Frimpong is basically right wing, right mid, or right wing 100. Yeah, I don't see him as a right back, in my opinion, at least not in the way traditional right backs are seen, but it is. So, on Danny's point earlier with Miguel Gutierrez, the 35 million euro release clause is very, very, very tempting, and it's almost a no-brainer, right? That's a cheap option. Like, that's around how much did we pay for Shaw when we got him? It was like similar price. But again, the problem here is Girona, they're part of that City football group as well. So I wonder, how possible it will be. Again, it's a release clause, so there's nothing they can do about it. But it is, we know City will try to fuck that up if we try to make it happen. Danny says, get him in January. If that were possible, like, send Anthony in return. Let Anthony go to Girona and send Victor Lindelof even. Let him go hang out in Spain for a little bit. So again, it is a release clause, so it is in Gutierrez's hands. There's nothing that can be done if we want to pay it. And I think, like Danny's saying, it's a no-brainer. It's one of those things, like, just get it done. And I think Real Madrid, though, do have some sort of buyback option with Gutierrez again, and I think they do have a sell-on clause. So if we pay that release clause, they're going to get some of it. In any case, we know that United have already expressed interest in Gutierrez, so this one could be more possible than my previous two options, personally, because of the heavy links already, because of the release clause. Like, again, that's a no-brainer to me. That's win-win-win any way you slice it. So let me know your thoughts on Gutierrez. I really like Gutierrez. Again, it was a bit of a cheat because we've been linked and we have shown interest, but I still would have picked him no matter what because he's a really good left back. I have two more left backs, though. Again, these are a bit iffy. Their gettability, is that a word? I'm going to go with it. Their gettability is a bit of a stretch, like a really big of a stretch, but I want you guys to indulge me because it is good to dream now and then, right? So indulge me a little bit on my final two picks. They are the pipe dream. They are the in a perfect world, money is no object picks, but that's okay. It's good to dream, so don't kill my dreams. My final two picks are Federico Di Marco and Theo Hernandez. Both play in Serie A, both very, very good fullbacks. We've seen it for years, right? Do I even have to go into a whole lot of detail on these guys? I mean, on Teo Hernandez, so he will be 27 in the month. So again, he's kind of entering that area of his career where it's kind of make or break. His next contract is probably going to be his final contract. He'd be more of like a 3-4, maybe 5-year signing, but what an amazing 3 or 4 years he'd give us, right? Again, similar to the age of Grimaldo, he's a little younger than Grimaldo, but I think I'd put Teo Hernandez and Federico DiMarco in a different class altogether. He's a full-on attacking, chance-creating fullback. He carries the ball up the pitch. He gets it into the opposition area. 5 goals. His 5 goals last season all came from inside the box. 4 assists, 6 big chances created, 4 times team of the week. Top 5% for progressive carries and shot-creating actions. Top 10% for pass completion and progressive passes. Top 15% for take-ons and touches in the opposition box. The guy is just like his only job. He was created in the lab to just move the ball up the pitch. He needs to cool down the discipline, though. He got 11 yellow cards last season, 1 red card. So he's a little bit of a hothead, but it is what it is. Reportedly, he's hit a bit of a stumbling block with AC Milan over the salary demands, but he's not like he's asking for a ton. He's currently he's not even on 100K a week right now, which comparatively speaking to what we pay some of these players at United, like Victor Lindelof's on more than that. Anthony's on twice that. Like, we could afford to pay him a little bit more. I'm not looking to give him like Rashford and Bruno money or Casemiro money, but I think we can afford it. And that could be an appeal. And I don't like having to be in this whole thing where, like, I don't think he's a mercenary. I don't like having to pay wages, but I think that he's at the age where I think he's going to want to know that he's secure. It's up to AC Milan to decide if they want to give him a raise or if another club wants him. I think that I would really like him. I think that if Bayern Munich lose Alphonso Davies, that could be a good destination for it too. But I love Teo Hernandez. Danny B says, best in class for getting up there in mileage. We are getting up there, but he's probably the oldest one on my list. Raja says, Ashworth is not best in class. He is very good, but not number 1. I mean, we'll see. He's only been here 1 transfer window, and he only came in here in July. So it's a little harsh. We're going to have to be patient and see what they do. So far, I like what I see, but we will see what happens. What I really like from Ashworth and co right now, and Vivel and guys like that, is the young players that we've been linked with. We spoke a little bit about that last night with some of the young midfielders and some of like Juan Sanchez and who is the other guy? Peo Canales, I think was what his name was. And plus Sekou Kone, Obi Martin, all these young players. We're going to have a really, really good generation of young talent coming through in the next 2-3 years. And I'm really excited to see it. I really like that. That could save us so much money in the long run. Like, we paid what, $1 million for Kone? Like, that's insane. And this he's playing in the first team. Yes, it's in Mali, but he's playing in the first team. Raja says, let's get David Hansko from Feyenoord. I did a scouting report on David Hansko when he was at when he was at Sparta Prague. I did a scouting report on him, and then he went to Feyenoord. Very, very good. I really like David Hansko. I don't know if I would say when I look at David Hansko, I don't see Premier League fullback. He reminds me of Marco Senesi when he was still at Feyenoord, Argentina's center back. I really liked Marco Senesi when he was at Feyenoord. Hasn't really been convincing at Bournemouth. And I think for some of these players, it's going to be always a little bit hit or miss with some of these players from some of these other leagues. You never know. I'm not saying Hansko's bad, but when I watch him play, I don't see Premier League fullback there. Plus, he plays a little bit more center back these days as well. But he is a good player. I will say that. Orlando Pirates, Kaiser Chiefs. Oh, you're going into that rest of world on FC24, man. I haven't done any scouting of world. And let me know what rest of world is like. On to Federico DiMarco. So he was in SofaScore's team of the season last year for the Serie A. 5 goals, 6 assists, 14 big chances created. He was second in the league for big chances created last season. Third in the league last season for key passes per 90. 4 times featured in the team of the week. I mean, do we need to talk about Federico DiMarco? He is one of the best fullbacks I've seen in a long time. He does play a little more advanced. They do play a bit of a win-back system, but I do like what I see from Federico DiMarco. Excellent numbers in terms of putting himself in those advanced positions to receive the ball. top 1%, literally top 1% for progressive passes received, and top 7% for touches in the opposition box. So he's getting the ball, he's getting in advanced areas, he's causing problems. Top 1% for shot creating actions and expected assists. So he has a knack for creating those opportunities. He has a knack for putting his team in the best possible position to score goals. His interception numbers are average, which isn't bad. Again, it's just average. He's playing more of a wingback, like I said. So that's going to see his defensive output take a little bit of a hit when you are an attacking fullback. You can't really do both. At least you can't do both on like a constant like 8, 9 out of 10 rating. Part of your game is going to suffer. And that's not even to say that that's an individual thing. Sometimes it's just a system thing. You know, if somebody new came into Inter and decided to play with the back four, you'd probably see a little bit more defensive numbers from DeMarco as well. But because he's playing as a wingback, like Grimaldo at Leverkusen, Raja, it's similar. He signed a new contract last season, though, and that's the problem. That's why this is a pipe dream. So DeMarco is probably the least likely of my targets to make a move unless somebody wants to pay a lot of money to take him from Inter Milan, unless he wants to leave. Again, it is difficult to get Italian players out of Italy. It can happen, but it is difficult. We know how good Theo Hernandez is. We know how good Federico DeMarco is. We've seen it for years now. Naming them in my list, it does seem a bit like some little kid playing Ultimate Team and just looking for the best players and don't know what they're doing. I get it. But in this case, it is true. They are couple of the best fullbacks in the game right now. Just they're among the elite, in my opinion. Just close your eyes and imagine for a moment. Imagine Theo Hernandez or Federico DeMarco in a United shirt, flying down that left wing, overlapping, underlapping, carrying the ball into the final third and creating chances for our strikers. You know, just imagine what that would be like to see. Imagine putting Theo Hernandez and Federico DeMarco in a United shirt compared to what we've been. And I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, but the difference is just night and day when it comes to quality, when it comes to raising the level of the squad. When you put Theo Hernandez or Federico DeMarco or even Miguel Gutierrez and any of these left backs in a United shirt and start them on the left back spot, we've instantly leveled up in terms of that position, in my opinion, anyway. And so dream with the final two, but just let me dream. We've been linked with a handful of fullbacks, and I'm sure that we're going to be linked with many, many more this season as the season rolls on and as injuries hit or this or that. It's just normal. But these are the left backs that I think are worth the money. I think they're better than Shaw. They're better than Tyrell Malacia. And I do think they're going to elevate our squad to another level in terms of their quality. That's just my opinion, though. I want to know what your guys' opinion are. Is there anything that I didn't mention? Who would your pick be to replace Luke Shaw? I know Raja really likes Grimaldo. Grimaldo is a great player. He is a great player. Leif Davis, I've mentioned a couple times. Højlund ready to play finally. Hopefully, tenhag needs to cool it with how strict he is with fitness. I'm not just looking at Højlund's injury because injuries are a bigger deal. But like when it comes to Ugarte started the last 2 matches for Uruguay and he's looked great. He could have been playing for us against Liverpool, in my opinion, if we just gotten that deal done a little bit earlier. I don't want to talk about it. It's going to make me mad. But again, these are my opinions on who I replace Luke Shaw with. Again, kind of a fun video, kind of a random video, but I do these videos throughout the season depending on what I think our transfer priorities are going to be. And to me, left back was a priority ahead of the window. It's still a priority, so I thought I'd stop and, give my thoughts. I'm sure that there will be some fullbacks that pop up in and around the top 5 leagues or so this season that are going to kind of make the step up and get noticed. We saw that with Gutierrez last season. I'm sure we'll see it again this season as guys like Milos Kerkez, Nori, these guys get more minutes and start to show their quality. But let's see. This is about opinion. These are my opinions. I want to know your opinions. But speaking of opinions, it is my opinion that football fans should not be priced out of celebrating and supporting their club when it comes to wearing jerseys. If you're tired of spending over $100 on jerseys, head over to GoGo Shop. The link is in the description when you want to buy a new one. They've given me a discount code to pass along to you guys as a thank you for helping me get to those 1,200 subscribers. We are on the road to 2K. But they gave me a coupon code for $5 off your order. Check out the link in the video description. It'll bring you right over to the site. The $5 off is right there. So go check that out. Raja says, getting into if, buts, or maybes. Yeah, you always are. And that's what it is when people give their transfer targets. It doesn't matter. which channel is, which journalist. When we're talking about transfer targets, who could we sign? That's what it is. It's opinion. It is going to be about preference, because it's never about right or wrong when it comes to transfer targets. It's never about right or wrong when it comes to player traits and characteristics and what you think is more better or worse. It's just about opinion, and that's why we're here. These are just the players that I was looking at, the players that I think would come in and do a good job. Everyone's going to have their own, but I care more about hearing what you guys think and who you guys would target. Grimaldo will be very good. I think he'd be very good. I think that the only reason I would leave him out is simply because he's older and he's going to have to be replaced again in another couple of years, and we're going to be right back in the same boat we are now. Yes, Teo Hernandez is getting to be, 27, 28, but he's still younger, and so you're still going to get a couple more years out of him than maybe you would get out of Grimaldo. And that's just kind of the way my mind works with some of this stuff. It doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. It doesn't mean that there is a right or wrong. Like I said, it's just opinion. I'm just a guy with a camera and a ring light. I'm not an expert. I want to know what you guys think. But I do appreciate you getting your thoughts in as well. Don't forget to like the video, you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. We'll probably do another similar video on central midfielders later on in the season, as I do think that position is going to kind of look a little different moving. We've got Eriksson still, Casemiro still. These guys look like they're probably on their way out in the season, so we're going to be light in that position as well. So we need to be planning. We are getting Collier coming through, so we'll see how that goes. Angel Gomez could be free in a year. Would that be romantic and poetic to have him return to Old Trafford after being gone for the last 5 years? Let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in seeing. Angel Gomez is not a bad player. He just wanted to play, and he was still very young, and it wasn't going to happen. So kind of like when Pogba left for Juventus, when he was young, it was that kind of situation. It is what it is. I don't think there's any hard feelings there. So let me know you guys' thoughts. Those are my left back targets. A couple of them crazy pipe dreams, but it's still fun to dream. Fran Garcia, Miguel Gutierrez, David Raum. Let me know. Come back for another video tomorrow on just updates. Depending on when we get our pre-match press conference from Ten Hag ahead of Southampton, because that's coming right around the corner, I will be back with my thoughts on that, our match preview of Southampton, and then I want to get your thoughts on this busy fixture schedule we have coming up. So all that will happen in that video. Could do a video tomorrow or not. I don't know yet. It's just going to depend on what the news is. I have a busy week going on right now too. My wife's going to be gone this weekend, so I've got a lot of prep for that and everything to help out with that. And so we'll see how it goes. Again, go check out some of these other videos on left backs, on Luke Shaw. Go check out my video last night if you guys want to see me swear a lot, because I was not happy yesterday with some of the media. But thank you guys for stopping by. Danny, Rajat, Patrick, appreciate it. I will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you again for stopping by. Later.